Hello everyone, my name is Pope and I'm so excited to welcome you to the premiere episode of a new Commander gameplay series here on the Commander Tactics channel that we're going to be calling the Commander Tripod. In the typical Commander game, you gather 4 players to battle it out until only one remains. But what if you don't have that 4th player? That changes everything and is exactly what we intend to explore here on a regular basis. 3-player Commander has a ton of upside, including faster games, more time actually getting to play, and less time just sitting around. It also presents many new obstacles. In a 3-player pod, there are less players to depend upon to help answer opponents' threats. Threat assessment becomes even more critical, and decisions you make become less forgiving as you go. 3-player Commander provides all the fun and strategy that a normal 4-player pod has to offer, but at a quicker pace. All of our games will be presented in the short-form narrated format to ensure the most gameplay in the shortest amount of time. A couple things to dive into before we begin. If you enjoy this content and would like to support the channel, the best way to do that is simply by liking and subscribing. It goes a long way and lets us know that you are enjoying the games. If you would like to go the extra mile, we do have a Patreon, which comes with some fun perks and awesome Patreon exclusives in our Discord. It also allows us to keep doing what we're doing and bring you more gameplay. But now let's take a look at the commanders and starting hands that we are going to be throwing down in this game. Playing first, we have V piloting his 2-color Omnath Locus of Rage. This deck is a lands matter deck that aims to generate lots of tokens and have explosive combat phases. His starting hand contains a command beacon, a mountain, a forest, Mina and Den Wildborn, a Chroma's Memorial, Sol Ring, and Nissa Vital Force. Next in turn order, we have Devin playing Torbran, Thane of Redfell. This deck is a mono-red Spellslinger deck that aims to leverage Torbran's ability to knock all of the opponents out simultaneously. Devin's opening hand contains a snow-covered mountain, 2 basic mountains, a Cryptic Cave, Blasphemous Act, Tormenting Voice, and Smoke. And lastly, I will be playing Anowon, the Ruined Thief. This rogue tribal deck looks to swing in with lots of rogues in order to generate tons of card advantage off of Anowon's ability and then reanimate the best creatures from our opponent's graveyards. My opening hand contains a swamp, 2 islands, a Notorious Throng, Invisible Stalker, Mind Stone, and Sol Ring. And now, without any further interruptions, it's game time. V kicks things off by playing a forest and taps it to cast a Sol Ring. Devin plays a mountain and passes. I play an island and tap it to cast a Sol Ring, then tap the Sol Ring to cast a Mind Stone. V plays a mountain and taps 4 to cast Mina and Den Wildborn. With a second land drop, he plays a command beacon and then passes the turn. Devin plays a mountain and casts Smoke. I play an island and tap out to cast Blighted Agent and Invisible Stalker. V casts a Nissa Vastwood Seer. On ETB, he gets a basic forest to his hand, which he plays as his first land for turn, and an Evolving Wild as his second land. He then taps 3 to cast Cultivate, putting a mountain into play and a forest into hand. When the mountain enters, it triggers Nissa's flip ability, turning it to Nissa Sage Animist. V upticks Nissa, revealing a Chaos Warp from the top, and puts it to hand and passes the turn. Devin plays a Cryptic Cave, casts a Tormenting Voice, and passes the turn. I play a Swamp for turn and move to combat, attacking V with the Blighted Agent and Devin with the Stalker. Both are unblockable and damage resolves. I follow up by casting Notorious Throng for its Prowl cost, generating 2 Fairy Rogue tokens, and I get to take an extra turn. With nothing more to do, I pass the turn to myself. I only am able to untap 1 creature, so I choose the Blighted Agent. I play an island, and then cast my commander, Anowon the Ruined Thief. I move to combat, hitting V again with the Blighted Agent for 2 more Infect, Nissa for 2 with a Fairy, and Devin with the other Fairy. Off the Anowon trigger, each of my opponents mill, and I draw 1 card from Devin putting a creature into his bin. With nothing left to do, I pass the turn to V. V starts things off by casting his commander, Omnath Locus of Rage. He plays a Field of the Dead tapped, creating a 5/5 elemental token. For his second land, he plays a forest, creating another elemental token. And lastly, he cracks his Evolving Wild to get a forest into play and creating his third token. He then upticks Nissa, revealing a Blasphemous Act, puts it to hand, and passes the turn. Devin plays a snow-covered mountain and casts Blasphemous Act for 1 red mana. This clears the board, and V pings each of us for 6 damage off of 4 elementals dying. Devin then taps 2 and casts Magmatic Chandler and passes. I play an island and recast Anowon. I follow up with a Wayfarer's Bauble and pass the turn. V upticks Nissa, reveals a Courser of Crufix, putting it to hand. He casts the Courser, revealing the top card of his deck. V then taps 7 to cast Akroma's Memorial and passes the turn. Devin plays a mountain and casts Wayfarer's Bauble. He then taps 2 for a Young Pyromancer and pays an additional 2 to activate the Bauble, getting a mountain into play tapped. On my turn, I play an island and cast Whispering Madness, ciphering it onto Anowan. We all discard and draw 4 new cards. Knowing that V is clearly the frontrunner, Devin agrees to let me swing at him with my commander in order to hopefully dig for more answers off a second Whispering Madness trigger. I cast a Cold Steel Heart, choosing black, and pass the turn. V taps 4 mana and casts a Garruk Wildspeaker. He upticks Garruk to untap 2 lands and then casts an Azusa Lost but Seeking. Unfortunately, with no lands to benefit, he passes the turn. Devin starts his turn by casting a Dockside Extortionist, generating 6 treasures. He uses 3 treasures to cast a Valakut Exploration, and then drops a mountain for turn. Off the Valakut Exploration trigger, Devin exiles Gamble from the top of his library. He casts a Soul Ring from his hand, and then casts the Gamble from exile, randomly discarding one of the 2 cards in his hand. After winning the 50-50, he casts the last card from his hand, which is an Ensnaring Bridge. Devin then casts his commander, Torbran, Thane of Redfell, and passes. I start by cracking the Mind Stone and dropping a Dimir Aqueduct, bouncing an island to my hand. I cast a Blade of Selves and follow it up by casting a Night Veil Sprite, equipping the Night Veil with the blade. Unable to attack, I end my turn. On my end step, V casts Croson Grip, destroying Devin's Ensnaring Bridge. V starts his turn by upticking Nissa, putting a Doubling Season to hand. He then taps 9 to cast his commander, Omnath, Locus of Rage. Using Courser of Crufix, he plays a forest from his deck, creating an elemental token. He upticks Garruk, untapping 2 lands, and then casts Nature Lore, getting a Cinder Glades into play, creating another elemental. He then plays a second land from his deck thanks to the Courser and Azusa. This generates yet another elemental token. He plays his third land from the top of his deck, which is a Terramorphic Expanse, cracks it, and generates 2 more elemental tokens. Then with 4 mana remaining, V casts Scapeshift, creating 12 more elemental tokens. Thanks to Akroma's Memorial, V then is able to send in his elemental army and take us both out to win the game. This game was insanely fun and fast-paced, but in the end, Omnath and Scapeshift bring home the win. Devin tutoring the Ensnaring Bridge was a great play with a 50-50 to discard it, but in the end, it also completely shut down my deck. Let us know down in the comment section below what you thought of this pilot episode. Constructive feedback is always welcome, so do make sure you let us know. You can also find a link to our Discord below if you'd like to come in there, let us know what you thought. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we will see you for the next one.